taking 60 Super Mario Universe characters and running them through the Squid Game. With no extra lives, let's see who wins.
Welcome to the Squid Game. We're excited for everyone to play.
Today's roster of contestants is as follows. Mario, Luigi, Peach, Captain Toad, Yellow Toad, Blue Toad, Toadsworth, Daisy, Yoshi, Poochie, Rosalina, Lubba, Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong, King K. Rool, I think he very loosely counts, Plessy, Pauline, Bowser, Bowser Jr., Larry, Lemmy, Roy, Wendy, Iggy, Morton, Ludwig, Kamek, Drybones, Shy Guy, Goomba, Koopa Troopa, Pokey, Bullet Bill, Wart, Tatanga, Wario, Waluigi, King Boo, Petey Piranha, Paper Mario, Vivian, Dementia, Olivia, Wiggler, Monty Mole, Rocky Wrench, Lakitu, Cacletta, Fawful, Princess Shroob, King Smithy, Cappy, Boom Boom, Nabbit, Prince Florian, Birdo, Professor Egad, Gino, Antasma, and Chargin' Chuck.
The following are the ground rules in this Squid Game. Number 1, no outside allies or sidekicks. 2, no outside weapons, with the sole exception of any equipment needed to survive. Number 3, no magic. 4, natural abilities are allowed. The first game is red light, green light. You may move forward when it shouts green light, stop when it shouts red light. If your movement is detected afterwards, you will be eliminated.
Speed, composure, and general athletic ability will be your best friend in this round, and calmness under pressure. So with that, let's get to the characters who pass with flying color. We probably don't need to tell you that Mario, Luigi, Peach, Daisy, Blue Toad, and Yellow Toad are all safe in this round. Even if we didn't consider most of their performances in Mario Party for this video, just look how they absolutely book it in Super Mario Bros. Wonder. They would cross that finish line in no time. And the same can be said for Nabbit, Yoshi, and Poochie, who also have plenty of platformer hero experience. Heck, even Wario stands out in this category. Sure, he's more of an anti-hero, but he's quick enough to outrun crumbling treasure vaults within minutes, showing an ability to keep a cool head and get stuff done fast. We also have to mention Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Donkey Kong Country just straight up have a red light, green light game? All the characters from Paper Mario games are at an advantage since they could just turn 90 degrees and become more or less invisible to motion sensors. In Vivian's case, she could hide in the shadows whenever the need arises, a talent she shares with Monty Mole and Rocky Wrench as well. Other common enemies like Chargin' Chuck and Wiggler were practically made for this speed-based challenge as well, so they're safe for the time being. And we have to shout out the villains in the running too. Bowser and Bowser Jr. are obviously strong and speedy enough to make it past this round, and we think their leadership and influence would help their underlings as well, from Kamek to even the simple Goomba. With that said, our most obvious elimination is Bullet Bill. Being a sentient bullet, Bill isn't exactly well versed in the art of stopping. I guess you could argue they could cross the finish line quickly, but they can usually be outrun by Mario and the gang pretty easily, so we think that this is where his story ends.
Player, you have been eliminated.
Now, I have to point out that if these Squid Game players just taught themselves how to code, they'd have a perfect skill set for the job market and they wouldn't need to be here. Unfortunately, learning how to code can be as tedious as using a needle to carve out an umbrella pattern from a cookie. But what if I told you there was actually a way to learn coding skills that felt like playing a fun RPG game? With Boot.dev, you'll be taught back-end web development from start to finish in the Python and Go programming languages. And the really unique thing about Boot.dev is that the system was built to make sure that you were never bored. Honestly, I can't even count the number of times that I stopped learning something just because of how mind-numbingly boring it was. But the creators of Boot.dev understand that the smartest way to learn how to code is to also kill that boredom, because it turns the process into a captivating, self-paced online role-playing game. The platform is designed to get you writing tons of code because getting your hands on the keyboard is the only true way to learn. But why should you learn how to code? According to Stack Overflow, in 2024, the median salary for back-end developers in the US was over $100,000 per year. It's a great career path to explore, and you can learn it at home at your own pace. And if the idea of learning all these skills while earning XP and completing quests lights up all the dopamine receptors in your brain, Boot.dev is for you. On top of this, the Boot.dev team never wants a student feeling like they spent money on something that isn't helping, so they offer a free demo of the interactive experience on every course, and a 30-day no questions asked refund policy. So go to Boot.dev and try out the courses for free, and then use promo code ONEUPBINGE to get 25% off your entire first year if you choose the annual plan. Thank you Boot.dev for sponsoring us today, and for teaching us how to code while having fun. A character we feel a bit worse for eliminating here is Olivia. I actually really liked both her and Origami King in general, but Olivia is simply too bubbly and happy-go-lucky to keep composed throughout this entire round. She would have trouble staying still, let alone when she starts hearing straight-up gunshots.
Player, you have been eliminated.
Tatanga is the first main villain to lose, since he needed a spaceship armed with heavy weaponry to even be somewhat intimidating. I apologize to all 2 of the Tatanga fans in existence.
Player eliminated.
Lubba is another unfortunate elimination this round. Being a Luma, he sort of just floats around by default. Given how big he is, we don't think he'd really have a prayer of hiding behind someone either. Though, we wouldn't be surprised if he could just eat bullets like star bits, so he may be eliminated without the whole murder part.
Player, you have been eliminated.
And lastly, we have 2 of Bowser's biggest henchmen losing in the first round. It might break a few hearts, but Petey Piranha is down for the count. In contrast to many of Bowser's other henchmen who are sometimes shown, Petey is more or less doing his own thing. But that's exactly why we feel that he would lose here. He's one of the few characters among Bowser's army who acts almost purely on animal instincts. Characters like Goomba, Shy Guys, Lakitu, etc. are all shown to talk on occasion. Petey's just kind of like a wild animal, and we don't think he really would understand the game. And it's kind of predictable, but we also have Boom Boom. Even if we assume him to be slightly smarter than a wild animal, and we're being generous here, Boom Boom's fought Mario like 30 times and almost never switches up his methods. So if there's any minion likely to screw up in this game, it's him.
Player, you have been eliminated. 54 out of 60 players remain. Let's move on to the next game, Honeycomb. Players must cut out the shape from their cookies. Those who break their cookie or run out of time will be eliminated.
Patience, steady hands, and artistic skills will come in handy here, as will dexterity, general resourcefulness, and creativity. We'd prefer to ignore the characters whose capabilities go without saying, since it's pretty obvious why characters like Mario and Rosalina would thrive here. Let's talk about some of the more unexpected winners. You might think this is where some of Bowser's weaker forces would lose, particularly the ones who don't have the inherent biological advantage scientists dub as having arms. But thankfully for Goomba and Pokey, they have their leader's help to rely on. Bowser's not a good guy, but he does care about his henchmen to some degree. And while Bowser Jr. is obviously a fair bit less mature, we think that between him and Ludwig, they'd manage to make sure all the Koopalings got through this round without any issue. Characters with craftsmanship skills are in good standing too. That goes for inventors like Fawful, Egad, and King Smithy, of course. But it also qualifies most of the main cast due to their talent in various sports and Mario Party minigames. Really, pretty much everyone could pass this round. Either they're skilled enough to do it on their own, or they have allies to count on. Or so we thought. Not every ally is loyal. Fawful realized long ago that Cackletta was dependent on him for most of her schemes. Being commanded as usual to do her dirty work for her, he would take this opportunity for a bit of sabotaging. To put it like Fawful would likely say it, the cookie of the downfalling of Cackletta was her relying on the oven of brilliance that is Fawful. She lost is what I'm trying to get across. And she's not alone though. Also losing in this round is Poochie, who, unsurprisingly, was more interested in enjoying some delicious cookies than participating in the games. But seemingly, nothing can hurt Poochie though, so who's the real loser here?
Player, you have been eliminated.
I'll tell you who's the real loser. Our final elimination in this round is Antasma.
Player, you have been eliminated.
Antasma is definitely the type of bad guy who would depend on one of the more brutish players to get him through the first few rounds, like Bowser or King K. Rool. Little does he know they'd be every bit as willing to throw him under the bus as Fawful was.
51 players remain. It's time for our next game, six-legged pentathlon. The rules are as follows. Players will split up into groups of 5, tie their legs together, and move in tandem around a track. Every 10 meters, one player will play a mini-game until it is completed, with each member playing once. The goal is to complete all games in the allotted time, repeating each one until it is complete.
So here are the mini-games. Ducky, throw a paper tile at the ground to flip over another paper tile. Flying Stone, throw a small stone at another small stone and knock it down. Gongi, a traditional game of Korean jacks, spinning top, and Jegi, kick a Jegi in the air 5 times in a row, kind of like hacky sack. Balance, composure, and most importantly, general gaming prowess are the most important characteristics for this game. That is, for those popular enough to find themselves a good team. This will be the point of the game where alliances and teams start to be formed. Once again, the heroes are pretty much universally in good standing here. Mario, Luigi, and Yoshi are an unbreakable team, and they're also among the only players who'd be nice enough to team up with Wario and Waluigi, who'd undoubtedly end up begging to join their team at the last moment. With their physical fitness and gaming prowess, they would have no trouble winning this game. Neither would the leading ladies, Daisy, Peach, and Rosalina. They're every bit as capable of saving the day as the Mario Bros, and we think they'd be willing to take some of the more vulnerable players under their wings. Prince Florian and Toadsworth don't have much strength to offer, but they're kind-hearted with pre-established relationships with the princesses, so we have a good feeling about their performance. Unsurprisingly, Bowser is once again a top-tier candidate. He planned to team up with Bowser Jr., but the little guy wanted to try running his own team to boss around, which Bowser allowed on the condition that Kamek join his team. Knowing full well what Bowser would do to him if Jr. got hurt, Kamek would take his job very seriously. And rounding out their teams are the Koopalings, whose strengths and talents would make several of the games a piece of cake. Other villainous presences include King K. Rool, Dementio, and Wart, who each have either the people skills or brute strength to pass this round with ease. But what about some of the smaller competitors? Well, don't worry, with Captain Toad's unshakable confidence, he could easily help Blue Toad and Yellow Toad to victory. And joining their team would be Birdo, who, to be completely honest, just kind of showed up on their team and wouldn't leave. They didn't mind her being there, it was just unexpected. And then the last of the notable team captains is good old Paper Mario. His friendship with Vivian is a strong start, but it still leaves 3 open spots on his team. Thankfully, Paper Mario is one of the friendliest characters in the series and would be willing to make friends with just about anybody, even Goombas, Koopas, and Monty Moles. Not everybody is a winner in this round though. With 51 players, somebody had to be left without a team. And while we do feel for the little guy, that somebody is Nabbit. While he's become more of a neutral frenemy to Mario and the gang, Nabbit is the type of shifty that leaves both the heroes and villains suspicious of what he might do next. So we don't think anyone would be gunning to include him on their team. And with this round being made up of so many strong teams, he is the only casualty.
Player eliminated. 50 players remain. Our next game is Mingle. Here are the rules. Players will stand on a rotating platform in the center of a large circular room. At any given moment, a number will be called out, at which point players have 30 seconds to get into groups of said number and secure a room for themselves. Any player who does not find a room with the correct number of players will be eliminated.
Speed, composure, and ruthlessness are your best friends in this round. Which characters are able to make sure they get a room, and which ones would actually do what it took to go through with it? Well, it goes without saying that Bowser and Bowser Jr. will survive this round. Jr. is a kid, so he's probably getting scared right about now. So Papa's gonna be taking the lead to make sure he's safe, crushing anyone who gets in the way between him and safety. DK and Diddy Kong would be doing the same, watching each other's backs and keeping themselves safe when the clock starts ticking. Paper Mario, Dementio, and Vivian could also slip through whatever door they needed to for obvious reasons, though one of these guys is clearly more ruthless than the others. On a similar note, Princess Shroob is a ruthless villain who has no pre-established allies in this game. She also is driven almost purely by destructive alien instincts, which makes her one of the scariest characters left in the running. And speaking of running, we have to mention Charge and Chuck, the enemy whose whole shtick is running through opponents like a brute, making him a perfect fit to win this game. Also notable is King Boo, who could startle any stragglers who might try to take his spot in a safe room. But let's talk about the major eliminations, because this round seems to always bring plenty of those. The obvious loser in this round is the humble Goomba. Really, for a character basically known for being a bottom tier enemy, he made it pretty far, which is why it's a shame that this game is tailor-made to eliminate the guy whose whole shtick is getting trampled on.
Player eliminated.
And some of Bowser's other minions weren't so lucky either. As durable as Dry Bones is, for instance, he takes a moment to put himself back together. And that moment literally means the difference between life and death.
Player, you have been eliminated.
While he isn't really known to be part of Bowser's army, Wiggler would either be too chill to play very aggressively, or he'd lose his temper and his focus on the game as a result.
Player, you have been eliminated.
Then there's Morton. This guy may have the ideal Koopaling physique, but he's also pretty dense, having vocabulary just barely more advanced than a cartoon caveman. His brawn over brains mentality, combined with some of the more egotistical Koopalings like Iggy and Wendy, would result in the end of some of the Koopalings.
Players eliminated.
And on that note, we could also see Kamek getting caught in the middle here. And since he's unable to use his magic and Bowser is preoccupied looking after Junior, when that number comes up 2, Bowser's gonna give Kamek the boot to save Bowser Jr.
Player, you have been eliminated.
The next to go is Toadsworth, who practically raised Princess Peach in some of the earlier games, and literally in Partners in Time. Even though Peach would do her best to protect him, he'd insist that she move on to the next round, since this old Toad had lived long enough.
Player eliminated.
For anyone wondering, by the way, the other Toads are okay. Captain teamed up with Blue and Yellow Toads, splitting up and sticking together when certain numbers commanded it. On a similar note, we were admittedly worried about Yoshi at first, since he'd absolutely be willing to give his life to save the Mario Bros. But thankfully, fellow noble steed Plessy swooped in just in time to save him from elimination. For once, Yoshi isn't being punished for his kindness, so good for him. The tiny Prince Florian wasn't so lucky. Not because nobody would try and help him, but because, the guy is a caterpillar, a tiny one. I think it's fair to say his allies might have forgotten about him in the chaos, which is sad, but honestly, very understandable. Sorry, little guy.
Player eliminated.
And that leaves 2 more eliminations in the round. Pokey, whose tall, spiky body would keep anyone from being eager to room with him, and King K. Rool, who made the mistake of trying to sabotage DK's little buddy, forgetting that every member of the Kong bloodline can crush him like an empty water bottle.
Players eliminated. 39 players remain. It's time for the next game, Hide and Seek. Players will be separated into 2 teams, Hiders Blue and Seekers Red. Seekers will be given a knife with the requirement of killing at least 1 hider within the time limit. Hiders will be given one of 3 keys, gaining access to various doors and hiding places throughout the arena. They must either find a 3-keyed exit before time is up, or simply stay alive for 30 minutes. Also worth noting is that Seekers are not allowed to hunt each other.
For this game, roles are selected randomly, and players have a few minutes to mutually agree to swap, if they so desire. With that said, here's how we think the teams would pan out. The Hiders include Mario, Luigi, Peach, Yoshi, Diddy Kong, Plessy, Pauline, Lemmy, Shy Guy, Koopa Troopa, Paper Mario, Vivian, Dementio, Monty Mole, Rocky Wrench, Lakitu, Fawful, Cappy, Birdo, and my boy Larry. And the Seekers include Captain Toad, Yellow Toad, Blue Toad, Daisy, Rosaline, Donkey Kong, Bowser, Bowser Jr., Roy, Ludwig, Wart, Wario, Waluigi, King Boo, Princess Shrew, King Smithy, Gino, Professor Egad, and Chargin' Chuck. Hiders will want stealth on their side, but if they run into a Seeker, they'll either need the speed to outrun them or the strength to defend themselves. Seekers will need strength and speed on their side for obvious reasons, but also the ruthlessness to kill. Paper Mario, Vivian, Monty Mole, and Rocky Wrench would all be pretty much invincible as Hiders. They could just chill underground and play cards until the time ran out. This could be the start of a beautiful friendship/alliance. If only it started literally anywhere else. Diddy Kong is fast and agile, and at least one of the Seekers is going to be watching out for him to make sure he doesn't get killed. So he's safe until the next round. Mario, Peach, and Luigi would stick together no matter what, refusing to let the noble bravery of the Toad Trio volunteering as Seekers go to waste. But now let's get to the less fortunate Hiders. Pauline wouldn't fall victim to DK, who's mellowed out over the years. She would fall victim to one of the more heartless Seekers, King Boo.
Player, you have been eliminated.
Being a sorta kinda good king pays off sometimes because Bowser's followers were willing to lay their lives down so he and Junior could live to see another day. Lakitu and Koopa Troopa are gone.
Player, you have been eliminated.
But their sacrifice won't be forgotten. One Hider who didn't try very hard at her job was Birdo, who was certain that she could charm her way out of being killed. Unfortunately, Wario will shove anyone out of the way for the sake of treasure hunting, so having a Hider literally throw herself at him would be a win in his book.
Player, you have been eliminated.
Given his ghost hunting experience, we think Egad could manage to take out Cappy.
Player, you have been eliminated.
And given their war crime experience, both Princess Shroob and King Smithy could take down some of the weaker Hiders in the running, particularly a weapon-free Fawful and the huge target that is Plessy.
Players eliminated.
Captain Toad managed to take care of an unobservant Lemmy, a story he'll no doubt be bragging about for the next few decades.
Player, you have been eliminated.
Daisy also succeeded in taking down Larry. It only took 3 hits, but again, it won't stop her from bragging about it a bit.
Player eliminated.
But finally, not every seeker was fit for the task. In particular, we can't see Gino, Rosalina, or Yellow and Blue Toad being willing to straight up murder anyone left in the running, especially considering most of the hiders are friends or neutral parties. And finally, a moment of silence for the leader of the bunch we knew well, Donkey Kong.
Player eliminated.
Charge and Chuck, Roy, and Wart were each foolish enough to try and take out Diddy Kong, but DK was having none of it. He fought off 3 of his fellow Seekers to protect Diddy Kong and at the cost of his own spot in the game.
Players eliminated.
But don't cry though, I could have sworn I saw him floating away on a balloon after he got shot. Oh, and I almost forgot. An entire episode was dedicated to the epic fight between Waluigi and the Shy Guy, which the former barely won after unleashing roughly 45% of his full power.
Player, you have been eliminated.
Looks like Ludwig is out of time and luck, because the rest of the hiders are cleverly hidden in secure places or smart alliances.
20. Players remain. It's time for the next game. Marbles. You will play the game of your choice with your partner. The player to take all 10 marbles wins. The loser will be eliminated.
You can play a game of luck or a game of skill. You can play fair or you can play dirty, but one thing's for sure, whoever you're teamed up with is gonna have to die in order for you to live. With that, let's look at the teams. Mario versus Luigi, and wow, starting right off with no chill. I mean, it's not like either of them would be willing to kill the other, but given how Luigi's hands would undoubtedly be shaking at the thought of either dying or sentencing his brother to death, Mario could find a way to let his brother win without making it obvious. Looks like you're player number 1 now, Luigi.
Player eliminated.
Princess Peach versus Princess Daisy. See, the thing here is that Peach would be more obviously willing to sacrifice herself, which would result in Daisy countering all her attempts at self-sabotage. It's the most aggressive case of, no, I love you more, that you can imagine, basically.
Player, you have been eliminated.
Yoshi versus Diddy Kong. Man, when are we gonna get to some of the mean characters? At least with these two, we could see them playing an honest game of skill, like seeing who could throw a marble onto a specific roof without it falling off. Yoshi probably has more precision aim, but we think he'd use it to give Diddy's marbles the boost it needed.
Player, you have been eliminated.
Oh, these pure sweet souls. Paper Mario versus Vivian. Vivian would definitely sacrifice herself so Paper Mario could live on.
Player, you have been eliminated.
Knowing her, she'd see it as a means of repaying his kindness to her even when they were technically enemies. Dementia versus King Smithy. Finally, some bad guys. These two would be willing to do whatever it takes to win, but Dementia is on a whole nother level of calculating evil. So sorry, Smithy. I mean, not that sorry, but a little bit sorry.
Player eliminated.
Monty Mole versus Rocky Wrench. Rocky Wrench wins because literally all he does is throw things. Now, I actually am sorry to Monty Mole. My dude did not deserve any of that carnage. Then there's Bowser versus Bowser Jr., which this one might actually be the saddest one of the bunch. I don't like this one at all. Bowser has the capacity to win this entire game if he wanted to, but if there's anything he would not be willing to sacrifice for the sake of winning, it's Bowser Jr. He lived as a villain, but Bowser died as a hero worthy of a world's best dad mug.
Player, you have been eliminated.
So let's go over to Wario versus Waluigi. While Wario is brash and greedy, he's also sharp and skillful. We could see him tricking Waluigi into thinking he's winning a game of luck, only to pull out some dirty tricks at the last second. Don't hate him for it though. Waluigi would have done the exact same thing to Wario, and we all know it, but someone must have been cutting garlic nearby.
Player, you have been eliminated.
I could have sworn I saw a single tear fall from Wario's glorious stash. Princess Shroob versus King Boo. You guys remember that weird King Boo fight in Mario Sunshine where it was revealed that he apparently likes gambling? Yeah, I feel like he's got this one.
Player, you have been eliminated.
And finally, Captain Toad versus Professor Egad. As smart as Egad is, he's also scatterbrained in his old age, whereas Captain Toad is laser focused on any treasure he's tracking down.
Player, you have been eliminated. Only 10 players remain. It's time to move on to our penultimate game, Jump Rope. In this game, players must cross a dangerous bridge while making sure they aren't knocked off by a gigantic double Dutch-style jump rope. They'd best be careful, because the rope speeds up over time, and they only have 20 minutes to cross.
Unlike last stepping stones, there's no reliance on luck here, just sheer agility, speed, and composure. You'll need courage, balance, and good timing to get through this round. People with kind hearts could help weaker players cross, but those with a more mischievous nature could easily sabotage the game to help their own chances. Real quick, let's see who's still standing. Luigi, Princess Peach, Diddy Kong, Paper Mario, Dementia, Rocky Wrench, Bowser Jr., Wario, King Boo, and Captain Toad. Initially, we thought Captain Toad was screwed in this round, but since Peach is still in the running, she'd gladly carry him across. While Luigi, Diddy Kong, Paper Mario, Bowser Jr., and even Wario are grieving their loved ones, they all have enough skills to either act as heroes or boss fights in dangerous platforming environments. King Boo and Dementia can just float across, and that only leaves Rocky Wrench. And you know what? He makes it too. Why not? If he can drive a go-kart, who's to say he can't cross the jump rope bridge?
10 players remain. It is now time for the final round. Prepare for our final game. Squid Game.
This game is designed for at least 4 players with at least 3 eliminations. Players press a button on each tower to begin the round, after which they'll have a set amount of time to push at least one living player off the tower. Once a player is pushed off, the others may move on to the next tower. However many players are on the final circle-shaped tower at the end after at least one player was eliminated will be crowned the winner or winners of Squid Game. The remaining players can either depend on diplomacy to decide which player to gang up on, or they can just jump into a full-on brawl. We start on the square tower, and it goes without saying that Dementia is going to be trying to convince the other players to separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. King Boo planned to ignore this argument to get some overdue revenge on Luigi, but Dementia decided to take the perfect opportunity to take out the other floating player in the running and hopefully win over Mr. L to his side.
Player, you have been eliminated.
Regrettably, since King Boo is both undead and floating, this wouldn't count as a proper elimination, allowing the other players to move on, so Wario quickly shoved Rocky Wrench off the ledge to remedy that.
Player, you have been eliminated.
Which brings us to the Triangle Tower. With a seed of doubt now literally planted in Luigi's mind, he's tempted to trust in Dementia, allowing the Twisted Magician to hold him hostage as his own personal puppet. That is, until Paper Mario, Peach, Bowser Jr., and the brave Captain Toad knock some sense into him. Wario, on the other hand, saw that this was a bit of a roundabout way of doing things. Why not take out Dementia instead? For anyone saying Wario could never win that fight, well, fair, but remember that in the Wario Land games, Wario is either invincible or incredibly durable. He wouldn't be injured by anything Dementia did to him, and we think he'd be willing to sacrifice his spot in the game to give Dementia a well-deserved shoulder bash off the tower. Just in case, Paper Mario would team up with him to ensure the malicious magician stays down for the count. It may seem uncharacteristically kind for Wario to help with this plan, but think about it. If Wario kept Dementia from brainwashing Luigi into killing his friends, whoever won the game would definitely be willing to give him a cut of the money. A pretty huge cut too. Shrewd business as always, Wario.
Players eliminated.
And at last, we move on to the final phase, the Circle Tower. Everyone in the running has lost enough today. There's no need for any more bloodshed, and even Bowser Jr., as selfish as he may be, would want to take the surefire chance of teaming up with his former enemies so he could use his share of the prize money to become a worthy successor to the late Koopa King. Nobody expected him to make it this far, but it's time for the brave Captain Toad to put his money where his mouth is.
Player, you have been eliminated.
He's lived a life of treasure hunting, power star hunting, and well, that's it.
Yay!
But he's done a lot of exciting stuff, and what's more exciting than giving his life to save friends and frenemies alike? Thank you again, Boot.dev, for sponsoring this video. Remember to use our promo code OneUpBinge to get 25% off your first year.
With that, we have the surviving winners of this Squid Game. Congratulations to the courageous Luigi, the kind-hearted Peach, the loyal Diddy Kong, and the mighty young Bowser Jr. With the prize money in hand, they'll build kingdoms strong enough to ensure the games never return to the Mushroom Kingdom. And then Bowser Jr. will start the whole kidnapping princesses thing up again. Priorities, people.